What's up, guys? Welcome to day 3 of baseball's winter meetings. We're here in Dallas at the Hilton Anatole. I'm Jim. With me is Noah Hiles from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Noah, how's it going?
It's been an eventful day. Eventful back end of the afternoon, I should say.
Yeah. So day 3, like I said, we had the big trade yesterday, which we can touch on that. But day 3, big items today. The Rule 5 draft was today. But before we get to that, you kind of dropped a bomb on Pirates with Pirates fans today. A really informative article talking about how the Pirates were basically making some more pitching available on top of Luis Ortiz, who was traded yesterday. So I guess just let's dive into that a little bit. Yeah. What you heard about not only Mitch Keller, but Jared Jones.
Yeah, I mean, one, I don't think this should be a huge surprise. They've been vocal about the idea of starting pitching being their strength. And if you want to take some of that strength and use it to make other areas of the roster better, the better players that you take from that strength and trade, the better returns you're going to get. So we reported, Andrew, Destin, and myself reported from things we had heard all week. We heard Monday that Mitch Keller was available. We heard Tuesday, while we were all at dinner, Andrew and I had to get up from the table just because I had to show him, that Jared Jones was very available. Now, what does that exactly mean? That's hard to determine. I think Pirates fans have some PTSD when good players get traded away and they immediately jump to the worst case scenario. I kind of have the opposite take on this, Jim. I mean, you look at the Ortiz trade, but I mean, Ortiz is a much different type of player than Jared Jones and Mitch Keller. And I think the idea of making it known that these two players are available is a smart move by the Pirates because you see what pitching is getting, both in the free agency market and in the trade market. And when you look at these two types of players, you have one, Jared Jones, who was one of the top rookie arms in baseball last year, a top 20 prospect before he became an official big leaguer. Then you have Mitch Keller, who's an all-star, who has a lot of years of control and for a lot of contending teams is under a reasonable contract. So the Pirates are making it known that, hey, if you want these guys, make us an offer. Will they be dealed? I don't know. But if they were to make a deal like this, they're going to get a lot better of a return than Spencer Horwitz. I mean, it could be something that really, really improves your team. It would be a big risk, but that was one of the, inside things that we heard this week.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point where, make them available doesn't mean that they're being traded, right?
Right.
But if you are going to trade one of those two guys, it's not necessarily a salary dump, right? If you're trading Mitch Keller, it's not a salary dump. It's freeing up more money so that you can address other holes that you have in your lineup or with your team by dealing from a position of strength, which is starting pitching. And like you mentioned before, the starting pitching market right now is crazy.
It is.
Free agent starting pitchers are getting way more than what they're projected to get. So all that does is it raises the value of pitchers like Mitch Keller that are under cost control for the foreseeable future. A pitcher like Jared Jones, who's basically free, those guys' values just go through the roof whenever you have free agents getting signed like this. So I think Pirates fans panicked, when they.
And I want to talk more on the finance thing. I know some of the word. It's so hard to word this in a way, but it does create getting rid of Keller would in a way I think create Keller, especially just because of that's where the financial flexibility tag was connected to him in the story.
Yeah.
In a way that allows you to do two moves. One that nets you I would assume a pretty nice return from whoever you would be doing business with. And two, getting that money off the books, yes, it trims your payroll. You don't have to pay him $15 million in 2025. That also gives you $15 million more to work with if you want to spend that on one free agent or if you want to allocate that toward a bullpen arm or maybe multiple bats or acquiring another bat in a trade that has a nice $10 million contract. It allows you to do a lot of other things. So when you see that term, and I know it's a scarred bunch we're talking to here, but it's not, if they were to trade Keller, it would not be for 3 guys in single A. it's not like they're kicking the can down the road. It would be with the understanding that that money would be reinvested into offense. And so would that trade return. And you would see the return instantly in the opening day lineup. And again, we don't know if this is going to happen. This is just the Pirates have made him available. That's all that is. That's all that's happening right now.
And
it's news, but...
Oh, yeah. It's news.
Yeah.
But it's also something that a lot of people have speculated this offseason.
Right.
Because if you look at this lineup and you understand the constraints that the Pirates have in payroll, and you see Mitch Keller making $15 million a year, and you look at the holes in your lineup and you're like, this is a way to address some of that.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it. I would be surprised at this point if that does happen, especially after trading Luis Ortiz. I don't think either of those two guys are going to be dealt at this point.
Yeah, I think Jared Jones would have to take like a Soto type return to deal at this point, just because you traded a right-handed pitcher with all that control already. You don't want to trade two of those guys in the same offseason. Keller, I still think it would take a lot, and it's okay. It's okay.
They're just available, right? Brian Reynolds was available,
and
right?
that's you talked about clearing up finances. There are two guys on this team who are set to make more than $10 million next year. One is your best hitter. One is your one of your better pitchers. Which one are you going to get rid of to make your team better? It would probably be the guy who's the pitcher, because you don't have a lot of reliable hitters.
Right. On top of that, Ben Cherington spoke with you all today, and I guess you asked him a little bit more to expand upon dealing from that position of strength. Yeah,
and he said, in theory, they're still open to it. And again, I will say, and I would do the same thing if I was a GM. I would give a very, calculated response that doesn't reveal much about the deck of cards in my hand. But he did kind of say, we got to be careful. You don't want to take the strength of your team and make it a weakness by getting rid of too much of it. And that's what you risk when you get rid of an Ortiz and then follow that by getting rid of a Jones or a Keller. But he didn't completely shut that down either. He didn't shut down the idea. He didn't say, no, our rotation, we just gave up Ortiz. We're done trading from that area. We have to stand pat. So I think it's just, he's letting it know these guys are available for business. Make me an offer I can't refuse.
Yeah. So as I said, with the way the starting pitching market is right now, I can completely understand why they're available. It's just, I feel like you're going to have to be blown away to trade one of those two arms.
And if there was a time for someone to give you a blowaway offer, it might be this offseason. I mean, again, look at the deals that have been extended in free agency. Look at the trade packages that have come. And you can argue that some of the values connected to these guys aren't that far away from
absolutely not
some of the guys that have been acquired. So it's a smart move in my opinion. And I wouldn't write it completely off, but yeah. It's going to have to be something big.
Yeah. You also added a few other, you and Andrew, also a few other tidbits in that article. I think Hunter Stratton was an interesting piece. I was expecting him to really be out of commission for most of the year, but tell us about him.
I will peel back the curtain. That was one that Andrew was a little bit more involved in, but to my understanding, there's belief that he might be ready by spring. And when Andrew kind of told me that, and we looked into it more, I was like, ready to what? Like walk? That was a horrible injury that he suffered. Yeah. But I think it explains maybe why the team wanted to get him on a minor league deal and not give up on him. And maybe his people said, hey, this guy's going to be ready. And the Pirates said, we'll see. We'll give you the opportunity. And even if you're not, we'll sign you to this and we'll keep you around. But if he could be, that would solve some problems. I think.
You need bullpen help right now, and if Hunter Stratton's available opening day, that's a big piece that you weren't expecting.
Right. So that's one where I'm going to need to see that, just because his timetable was a lot longer than being ready, in 6 months.
Right.
So.
Roll 5 draft was this afternoon. No Pirates taken. In the major league portion, no Pirates. They didn't get any players, and they passed on their pick. So not a whole lot of news there. That was kind of expected, though, right?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I published the story, or we published the story during the Rule 5 draft. So Andrew was more tweeting that just out of self-interest while I was kind of tying up all the final things before we published that. But, you know, they didn't have anyone drafted and they didn't draft anyone. So better luck next year, I guess.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Anything else happened today you want to discuss?
No, I mean, I just looking at the trade, the Horwitz trade, I thought was interesting. Wasn't the biggest fan of it originally. I know you and I talked about that
last night.
Last night and this morning. However, I will say I've talked to some people, you know, in different front offices around the league, and they seem to be a lot higher on Horwitz than I was. So maybe Jim here does know a little bit of ball, just a little bit. So we'll see. I think the frustrating part for me was Horwitz aligns a lot with the way this front office has evaluated players for the last 5 years. And after hearing and reporting about how they're going to change the way they go about things, and they're bringing in new perspectives, promoting younger people, reorganizing some different minds, I thought maybe they would value some different things or maybe step out of their comfort zone. But this move kind of was, A, it's the most aggressive move I think they've made in 5 years.
Been very aggressive, yeah.
And B, I think it's more of a comfort move like we've seen before, where they're going with guys they're really familiar with, which is not the worst thing in the world. I just thought that if you're going to trade someone like Ortiz, you know, go after something a little different. That's what I would have done. But, you know, based off of what I've heard today, I'm a little bit more optimistic on what Horwitz can provide moving forward.
Awesome. Well, that recaps really all of winter meetings. It's over. Everybody's pretty much gone.
You want to talk about Elvis?
You broke this.
I did.
You broke this.
Yeah, big scoop right here.
Yeah, that was the
Passan couldn't get it before me.
The first official move the Pirates made.
Right.
This winter meetings, adding a major leaguer.
Yes, to the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
Once he hasn't taken the physical yet.
Elvis Alvarado.
Yes.
Yep.
A guy who listen.
Stuff's there.
The stuff's there. If he can throw strikes, and this is a guy, I talked to another front office person who said his org really liked him, and the Pirates were really the only one who was willing to offer a 40-man spot, and that was the difference maker. But I look at, I mean, the velo is awesome. I mean, it's a fastball slider guy.
Yep.
They have a track record of developing those guys well, and if you can get the curveball going with a guy who now is on the coaching staff and teaches curveballs pretty well, and just get him to locate, I think it could be a nice piece. But yeah, I had to talk about Elvis before I got off the show here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey Noah, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Again, we're heading home tomorrow, so we're done. Hopefully, you liked all of our stuff here this week. Pirates were pretty busy, like one of the busier teams down here. So it was a fun trip. But yeah, thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely.
It's fun hanging with you all week. Guys, subscribe to the video, all that good stuff. And we'll see you later.